This is day 82 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you would be able, willing to sponsor a shir or more, it would be very much appreciated. Please contact me directly. Today's Arukh HaShulchan is Siman Nun Aleph, Sif Ches, through Siman Nun Beis Sif Hey. Sif Ches. Nachon Lavsik ben Elilim, Hashem Shamayim Asa, is printed in many of the Sidurim, to interrupt there. Rega Omat Yoser, a moment or a little bit more. Uben Ki and Kol. I assume it's Ki, Kol Mim Elim. Ki Kol Amim Elim. I did not know that. Shouldn't use Tikva name because there's an interruption. It's hard to translate a psik. It's an interruption between the two of them. The kaf, the kol, hu b'dagush. Gechein bein ha'amim le'elilim. Bein shamayim le'asa. Shelo yivla ha'memin. This is that you should not swallow the mems. Okay? Because it has come shamayasa. V'chol homer tila david shlosh pamim. Everybody says tila david 3 times a day. Uv'tol ben olam haba. He is promises ben olam haba. Klomar, meaning shizchus. It's interesting. Arukh HaShulchan is now going to give his interpretation of this agadic statement. Klomar shizchus ze yachriya zchuyos, that this zchus will cause. I guess it's from the Beis Yosef actually. This zchus will cause the zchus balance to be in his favor. Umovana davar she'adavka omer b'chavana. So it goes without saying that it's only if you say with kavana. Therefore, you should be careful to have kavana. If you ever do have kavana and asher, you'll note that it's actually written in the form of a record of a dialogue between David HaMelech and Am Yisrael. It's a fascinating interaction. At least you have to have kavana in that pasuk. If you did not have kavana, you have to go back and say it again. The Mishnah Berurah brings in the Chai Adam that you have to go back to Posech and complete the Mizmor from there if you didn't have kavana. Not just say that pasuk itself. From the Chashulin, sounds like it's just the pasuk itself. We explained that we finished Tila W, then Nachlan Varech, etc. Kovlin pasuk kol neshama tala v'gomer, and the reason why we repeat the pasuk kol neshama tala ka is in Neshu Sof Zemiros. It's the end of the Zmiros, even though Baruch Hashem Yom is psukim from elsewhere in Tilim, but it's Halukah is the end of the actual Mizmorim from Tehillim. It's also the last Mizmor Tehillim. It's also the last pasuk in Tehillim. It's interesting that the Baruch Hashem Yolam Amen V'Amen, part of it at least is taken from Tehillah Ayin Beis, I believe, which says that Kolu Tfilos, in that Tfilos, we don't say it obviously, in Davening Kol Tfilos David ben Yishai. So it could be that that's why we say it there, because even though the Halukah is the last in the Tehillim as we have it, but it's not chronologically the last. If we say Kol Tfilos David ben Yishai is actually the last thing that he wrote. Because it's the end of a song. We double say Hashem Melech twice. The Meisurim, these psukim are in parentheses. Those psukim not necessarily say Elomer Kila Hashem HaMucha B'Gomer. The scripture there, that's the Gra. V'yesh Chaz Sheshmar Ki Ba, which is evidently the name of that Rizal. Shemagil Levato Hashem Elokeinu Modim Anachnu Loch, which is in Baruch David of Charos and Mapris. Nishmas V'chol Kamal V'nech Tishtachaveh, and Nishmas and Shabbos, you come to that pasuk, and all heights will bow before you. Lo yishchekla, you should not bow down at all. The law is why the English chos elam makom shetiknu chachamim. You should only bow down with a place where chachamim instituted bowing down. Yesh noagim lamod Almost all the Siddur is printed that you should stand. Yesh mishkasa dafka b'yeshiva al pi Kabbalah. But then the Bach writes the Kabbalah is supposed to specifically sit down. The Mishabur brings down that you have to stand for Baruch David until Torah Hashem. He doesn't afterwards. In theory, he could sit down. But in terms of Yishtabach, he brings that Halacha L'Maisa. I'm sorry, Anshe Maisa, people of higher accomplishment, stand by during Yishtabach both on Shabbos and weekday. I guess we're all people of higher accomplishment today. Umitzadin ancient back to Arukh HaShulchan. Umitzadin ancient Kabbalah Babi Shmonesim Mechuyavin Lavon. According to strict level law, there's no requirement to stand except for Shmonesim, which is called Amida, and Kedusha, Kaddish, and Baruch. Also, Dvarim Sheba Kedusha, all Dvarim Sheba Kedusha. About P Hazar, meaning by Yotzer or Atilos. I don't think that the Spardim actually have that Kabbalah by Kaddish. I believe that they sit down for Kaddish, except for Shleich Tzibur. Apia Zohar min Yotzer Atilos Yon Dafka b'Yeshiva. So she's supposed to sit down specifically during that time. And Yikra Zohar Tefillah D'Miyusha. And the Zohar is called the Tefillah of sitting. Kambur Sham Tshuma Daf Kuflan Beis Bur Shamud V'Safo Ayin Sham. Test. Ein Lamar as Mios B'Mrutz. You should not see Pesukah the Zimra in a rush. King Mila B'Mila, but word for word. Yimolim Chotim, and if the tzibur is going way too fast, tzibur, and wants to daven together with tzibur shmonesrei, mutav she daleg. It's better to skip me shemar man b'mrutzah than to stay with them in a rush. Balzem mutov ma'ap kavana, marbei shelo kavana. On this they said it's better to less with kavana than a lot without kavana. Let's just have a siman aleph. Yichud mizmor soda yesh lamar b'negina, and especially mizmor soda should be said with a nigun. Should call shiros asidos libatel. All other shiros will be nullified, meaning they'll pale and into relative insignificance in the eventual future. Chutz mizmor soda, except for mizmor soda, which of course has the only. It's brought down that the only carbon yachid which will have to be brought basi levo is the carbon toida. The ein lamamrim mizmor soda b'Shabbos Yontiv. Pesach and Pesach. Don't say Shabbos Yontif because you can't sacrifice it on Shabbos Yontif. It's not doichel Shabbos Yontif, but and Pesach and Pesach nishish b'chametz. Vein toilet kreva b'hem. So it says chametz. You don't bring it on those days. Erev keep Yom Kippurim yesh kamos she'en omrim yesh nechels Yom Balayla. The people will not say mitzvah soda Erev Yom Kippur because it's eaten for a day and a night. Erev Yom Kippurim lo yuchal lechol balayla. And an Arab Yom Kippur you cannot eat at night. Yavi kaching the base absul, and therefore, if you were to sacrifice it that day, the part of the total would be not remain uneaten. The chaim b'Tisha B'av yesh kamash omrim b'yeshein ein omrim. We have a shir on that this past Tisha B'av, the first cycle of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, and it's on YouTube if you like to watch it. It's about Tisha B'av and Mizmor Soida, and about Mizmor Soida in general, and we call it the Arukh HaShulchan. The Mishnah Berurah says that we do say Mizmor Soda on Erev Tisha B'av and also on Tisha B'av itself. Later on in the Arukh HaShulchan, I believe in Hilchos Tisha B'av, he says actually also to say it as well. Upsukevu rachum shebahodu u'v'yichvod. Those psukim v'rachum yesh v'dagim on b'Shabbos Yontif yesh enam v'dagim. I guess because it's v'rachum v'chaper avon is a weekday type of request, and so some skip the Shabbos Yontif, some don't. And yesh chenem shana ours is a minute not to skip it. There is a long brackets here. I am looking at Ram Sipkan Tesha Tamam Mashu Moel Mechalik Psukim. It's crept into the city universally that there's a gap between the end of Baruch David and the Charos, even though it's the middle of a pasuk, and that originates with the minute on a day of a bris milah to do that to make that interruption. But the question is why the Moel even does it. So obviously you're cutting up the pasuk in half. Kol pasuk lo paskin Moshe lo paskin, any pasuk which Moshe did not cut, we don't cut. Ayin shamash tirates. See what the Magen Avraham answers. Ubemes chazal b'tanyis amru zeli and kriyas haTorah. So Arukh HaShulchan's answer is that it really only applies to the time of laning. She's that you sign B'emtza pasuk of Leikra Od, that the one Ola should end at the middle of a pasuk and not read anymore. Uvad Hafsik Gadol Chiamad Hashem Ikra, especially because it's a great Hafsik until the second guy gets up and lanes. The Eza Inyahu Lamasha Kulam Arim Biyachat. How is it relevant to that which everybody says together? Zerei Shisa Pasuk V'Zeh Sofo. If they say the beginning of the pasuk and then the Moel says the end of the pasuk, still Shomer Ka'onet. Rak B'Chem B'Haluhu. When you turn the Sefer to the Ora, Maschil HaChazan, Chazan begins. V'Akol Onim Hodal Shemayim. Even though it's all one pasuk, Vein Kan Efsek. Ukdush Omrim Kadosh. We say Kadosh, interrupted from what it says before in the pasuk. Alom Rikono Krozel Zev Amar. O Shashat Omer, or that the Shliach Tzibur says Krozel Zev Amar. V'Akol Onim Miyad Kadosh V'Chulei. Ach B'Sof Berkam Brachos Amar Kol Parshad Lo Paska. It's going. It says any parsha that Moshe wasn't and didn't interrupt. We don't interrupt. Which is difficult in and of itself because many of our kriyos on Mondays and Thursdays, even on Shabbos occasionally, end in the middle of a parsha. So I came in the Shabbos from Simon Ba Leislam Ba. The Shabbos we finished the whole parsha, being at the end, so therefore it's not an issue. The whole parsha with all its parshas. Avo b'sham hakvius al le'olam ayin sham beduk, but there the kvius, the I don't know what he means by this. I guess he means that the problem is when we, the reason why it's more a problem, Moshe, is because there's never a time when we say the entire pasuk in one shot. Okay, and that's a problem. Nun Beis. Somebody comes late to shul, and the tzibur has already begun saying Pesukei de Zimra. It's interesting that he begins the similar with above, continuation of the previous one, obviously. Why does Oz Yashir appear after all the Mizmarim? Not why does it appear at all, but why does it appear after Psukim and Nevi'im? Because in Ksubim, and certainly after Vayvarach David, which are Psukim Ksubim, Rosh Hashanah, the Psukim Malchus Zichronis V'Shofros, they should be in order, Torah being Ksubim. The Rambam must be after Yishtabach because it's out of order. So in order to understand the Rambam, we can say that the Shiras Hayam and Pesukei de Zimra Klal. Shiras Hayam is not really part of Pesukei de Zimra. Shekavu Kodim Birchas Yotzer or Leizatama Kamusi Mayim, but they put it before Yotzer or for a reason which was known to them and not necessarily to us. But according to our minhag, it's difficult. It's fascinating how many times Arukh HaShulchan brings down the Zohar consistently. This praise of Shiras Hayom, Chulei B'Tema Chulei, Amai Iu B'Tikuna Basrais besides Shivcha de David. Why does it appear after Pesukei de Zimra? V'Torah Sheb'Ksav. It's Torah Sheb'Ksav should come B'Akdimas Ksuvim, and should come before the Ksuvim, before Nabi as well. Elamigo V'Chulei Haikush B'Achta Ma'alya, since it's a very lofty praise. V'Yindah I Samach L'Tzleis of the Musha. Therefore, it's adjacent to the davening which we do sitting after Yishtabach. Akal Shona Klamar. The Adar, but the contrary, when they go to Malah Saw, because of its its high level praise. So some Chol Kriya Shema Birchos said they made adjacent to Kriya Shema the Bracha Shnikra B'Lashon Hazar Slos and Dushab, which is called the sitting tefillah, Kamosh Kasal, Simon HaKodem, Sof Sif Ches, Ayin Shom, like we mentioned earlier today. Base. Ikar Psuki the Zimra Rashi B'Shabbos. The main additions to Psuki the Zimra, according to Rashi, the main Ikar Psuki the Zimra Rashi in Masechah Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Ches, main Psuki the Zimra Hamid Shtei Mizmarim Haluas Hashem in Hashemayim, V'Halu Kel B'Kodsho, Ayin Shom. This Zel Das Smag, V'Agos Maimini. Okay, that's one opinion. B'Yesh Chos, some say the Ikar Raka Mizmar Achron, Halu Kel B'Kodsho. B'Zel Das Rav Natronoi Gon, B'Zel Das Rav Natronoi, Sheivia Tur. Varif a Rambam Kosu Mitila David Al Kolan Neshama. So it says the Rif of the Rambam write everything from Tila David until the end, Kolan Neshama Ta'alka. Mashma the two Kulu Shavin, going to them it seems that they're all equivalent in stature. Become nevertheless, Yesh so much Gam Hemod in the Mokum Shi of Shar Lomar Kulam, Koloshis Bar. It's likely that when you can't get to all of them, as will be explained, Yesh there are those to take precedence over the others. Gimel B'Zel Shom Rabbeinu Beis Yosef. In Bala Beis HaKnesses, Matzot Tzibur V'Sop P'Suk D'Zimra, you can't be sure on the Tzibur right at the end P'Suk D'Zimra. Omer Baruch Shama Amula B'Tishbach, as you say the entire Baruch Shama. Charkach Tila L'David, Me'atav Elam Hallelujah, till the end of Tila L'David with the added pasuk which we add on the end. V'Charkach, it's interesting, it doesn't say start from Ashrei, it starts from Tila L'David. I don't know if that's specific, deliberate, or just that's what you call it the Mizmor. It's not clear. I don't think those two psukim will make much of a difference in the time. So you should read Chaka Chalu is Hashem Shamayim Alimnes on Krovo Hallelujah. That's the first tefillah. Chaka Chalu El B'Kodsho Ad Kol Neshama. That's the last tefillah there. Chaka Yishtaba then Yishtaba. Chaka Yotzer Ukriya Shema Birchos. And then the Birchos Kriya Shema until till Shema Esrei doesn't skip anything. V'im ein shows kol kach. If you don't have so much time, even so much time, you should skip also the first capital after Ashrei. And if there's not enough time to say P'suk D'Zimra, even by skipping, because they start already, Yikra Kriya Shema V'Birchosea Imat Tzibur B'Spal Imoyim. Skip all P'suk D'Zimra, including Bar Shama Nishtabach and Dam with them. And then read all P'sukei Zimra, but don't say the brachas, because it's not the Ikar P'sukei Zimra. The brachas these brachas only made for when P'sukei Zimra is sent its proper place before the Birchos Shema and Shemon Esrei. They saw their sheep Chol Shamakom in order to arrange the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Achar Yispal before davening. When you're ready to daven, there's no, it's already too late to make a bracha on the praise because it's not being done at the proper time. That chasam is instituted. Daled. From this it comes clear. How great is Baruch Tefillah B'Tzibur Shlo Levad Shemekatzi B'Shiras L'Shbachos Shel P'sukei D'Zimra. Not only do we curtail the praises of P'sukei D'Zimra, El Afilu B'Vad L'Nosam L'Gamri. We would even cancel them altogether. The chobula bracha ain't a klum, because saying after davening without a bracha is nothing. It's just like just tilling. That which he wrote that you should say after davening ain't a lechova. It's not obligatory. The Shulchan you specifically shouldn't read them after davening. El Shabbeinu Beis Yosef Sifra Gadol Akasa Devarei Kavanaso Bivracha. He says, interprets of the Shulchan Gaon, that means you should say them after davening and now with a bracha. The below bracha, Alvai Shemar Kolam Kulo, Ayin Sham. So that a bracha, you say to him the entire day. Alma Lo Chiba Kamar El Kriyas Mizmar Ba'alma. So, okay, but that may be true, but then it's not as an obligatory, but it's only like reading Tehillim. According to this, a person who abbreviates P'sukei D'Zimra, like we mentioned previously, could say after just like generic Tehillim. Ches, Amnan Divrei Rabbeinu Beis Yosef Temui. The words of the base Yosef are difficult. How can you say Dragon meant that you shouldn't say the brachas, but you should say the Tehillim after davening? Actually, he's talking about a case where you already made the brachas, and just you abbreviate the Zimra. And this is that don't say him after davening at all. Come before retur. He clearly doesn't mean the brachas. Because he already said it. His intent is to speak about the kapitlach themselves. Or whatever else he skips Zimra. You shouldn't be him after davening. Because no point. The Takana was before davening. Chen Raisi, Misha Pasakin, after this Chamiyotza or Vlomar Klaus of the Zimra Matfila. And I saw somebody who said that if you started from Yotza or, like the Beis says, he didn't say Zimra all before davening, Lo Yamrim Achakach, I feel Bla Brachos. Shouldn't say him afterwards, even without Brachos. Kosh Keimar Baruch Shamar Vishtabach Kitzah Psuk Zimra. Certainly you said Baruch Shamar Vishtabach and you abbreviate Psuk Zimra. Shelo Yashnim Achar Tefillah Klau. You should not complete them after davening at all. It's not appropriate after davening to say Psuki de Zimra. It's out of order. It's not appropriate. It's true that the name Rabbeinu Yonah Vira Tur Shim Lo Amar Psuki de Zimra Kol Ikar, that you didn't say Psuki de Zimra altogether. Yomar San Achar Atfila B'Vir Chosein. You say them after davening with their brachos. Baruch Shamar B'Yishtabach K'mo Kon Atfila Ayin Sham, just like you would before davening, even with the brachos. That's what Rabbeinu Yonah says. A meal lo kamakin. We don't hold that way. Some people want to distinguish between it. You didn't say it at all. Those who run b'bir choseim achar tefillah. Then you say with the brachas after davening. Ben amar mitzas bir choseim, and with when you said a few with the brachas. Thus ein mashim achar tefillah klau few below brachas. Then you don't complete it all after davening even without the brachas. That's the Agor, and according to Brisha, that's the Tur as well. These words have been rejected. Uledina nire the Sheba Taisa Odif. You should not make them up after davening. And Sheshmi She'isa Goduhula Amr Achar Tefillah. People say it's a great Issa to say them after davening. I guess he be saying this to him because it's out of order. She can't cause Kamri Rishonim, so you shouldn't say this. This is in brackets. He says that and Bash Kasav B'Shem Smag Ramban who the Paris and Sham B'Chinir Das Chachmei HaKabbalah. That the Mekubalim said not to say Psukei Zimra that you missed after you finished davening.